There's no sound. I don't think they like how loud I am either.
Digital. Okay. Now. All right. That should be working. That I will actually put on.
They can hear me, but not you, which means
Yeah,
I'm in control now.
No, it should be fixed. Everyone, is it
Aw.
fixed? Let me know. Oh God, you thought it was you? Well, it is you. You just, you don't realize it.
I accidentally deafened everybody in chat.
Clear songs. Can I loop this, please? Can you please let
It
me
looks
loop
like they
this
hear
song?
you now.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry for almost deafening everyone. Apparently.
Where did iTunes put the controls for the audio? Controls. Okay, here we go. Repeat. 1. There we go. Got nice, lovely hollow skies in the background. Very relaxing, very soothing. Ah, here we go. As I was... Hello and welcome back to Let's Read RWBY Before the Dawn. I'm your host, Aaron McNeil of Cosmic Phoenix Productions, here with my co-host, Molly Rhymemaster. And today we're reading, as I said, Before the Dawn. Last time, things happened with Sun and everyone shitting on Sun, and he's really getting the short end of the stick. This book really doesn't like Sun.
Last episode, we almost saw Velvet just get murdered in front of a classroom for some reason.
Oh yeah,
Beacon. This is now a snuff film.
RWBY Fight Club. Yes. So, God, this book has been like a roller coaster of just weird choices. All right. Also, we're joined by Marnie Plush.
Hi, Marnie Plush. Guys, don't look at this. Don't touch it. Don't breathe next to it.
We will kill you.
We will kill you. By the way, so this first like little bit has techno jargon, which is great because my girlfriend is an electrical engineering minor, so she can point out if they do anything stupid.
And I am a seasoned veteran of Star Trek series, so I should be able to tell what here makes sense and what doesn't.
Yes, this is the same thing.
Well, it's more like I can identify what's bullshit as opposed to like knowing what's the right the right answer.
I know, I'm just messing with you.
All right, here we go. Velvet crouched in front of the disabled CCT relay tower, blinking stinging sweat out of her eyes. A drop of sweat splashed on the scroll in her hand, which showed the tower schematics, and she wiped it away with the cuff of her sleeve. Then she picked up a spanner and ran across the complex circuitry, patching together the wires that spilled from the open panel in front of her.
Why is she fixing wires with a spanner?
I don't know. It's Velvet. She's a rabbit.
Isn't a spanner a wrench?
Yeah.
Shouldn't she be using like a soldering iron?
Yeah, look, your girlfriend's the engineer. Why don't you ask her?
I don't know. Sarah, tell me when things are being stupid, okay?
This wasn't her scroll, and these weren't her tools. Weren't the right tools, either. They belonged to the communication technicians whom Team Nova had been escorting through the grim-infested mountains just outside of Obscuro Combat School. It should have been a simple job, but nothing was ever truly easy in Vacuo. Take a drink!
Oh yeah, everybody. So we have the drinking game. Every time it says that
Vacuo is a miserable place to live.
Tough in Vacuo. They're tough.
Yeah.
You take a drink. I have water with me this time because it's 4 p.m.
Hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It should have been a simple job, but nothing was ever truly easy in Vacuo. The technicians had been knocked unconscious in a skirmish with a band of dromedons. One of the vicious Grimm had spat acid on his leg, so he needed some serious medical attention, which Velvet's friend Gus Caspian was administering as best he could. Gus was a student at Obscuro, which had sent along some of their trainees to quote-unquote help the Shade Academy huntsmen, a chance to see them in action and get some hands-on experience. So these are like people that are about Ruby's original age in the volume. These are like 15-year-olds being sent out here now.
It's tough. That's why they do it.
Yeah. Velvet thought it was a little too soon to be sending Gus into the field, even on what was supposed to be a straightforward escort mission. But apparently Obscuro teachers didn't coddle students any more than Theodore did. Then again, Gus already looked older than he had already only a few months ago. Or maybe it was his Obscuro uniform. Velvet had to admit the thin, light vest over the athletic shirt and spandex leggings did complement his features.
What kind of outfit is that?
So spandex leggings. He's like, okay, imagine, you know those biking outfits? I imagine that, but like just like a vest over it. Like, okay, that's kind of tight for guys down there. You're just letting the imprint hang, guys. I guess when it comes to meritocracy, they're just they just eyeball it in Vacuo.
No.
In fact, the more she saw of the kid's uniform, designed to keep students cool and dry on the hottest, sweatiest days, the more she disliked her own outfit, which tended to collect sweat in all the most uncomfortable places. The Beacon students had been slow to adopt more practical clothes now that they were in Vacuo, but Coco had been messing around with new outfit designs for Team Coffee. Of course, now there were more important things to worry about, and there was no more Team Coffee. Velvet's ears. 1 minute.
Swivel.
Did the music skip? Was it? No. What the hell? Hello, guys. Play. Loop it. Don't need Jessie's theme. Who needs Jessie's theme?
What do you have against Jessie? She was cool.
Yeah, but Hollow Skies.
And by Jessie, I mean Erica Lindbeck was cool.
Mm-hmm. Where was I? Velvet's ear swiveled around, listening for any danger to make sure Gus and the technicians were safe, and listening to the sounds of the fight raging nearby. For her second mission since the new teams were assigned, Velvet was on the sidelines. She wondered briefly if her humiliating fight with Nebula had permanently ruined any chance she had of fighting alongside her new team, though it wasn't like she didn't have an important task of her own, one that none of her teammates had the expertise to perform. The sooner she repaired the relay, the sooner she could rejoin Team Nova. Her team. Why don't we just retreat? Oh, is this the guy from... Chat, remind me, is this the guy from the first book? Is that the kid from the first book? Someone needs to remind me. I'm gonna Google this. Gus RWBY, because I remember the name Gus. Yes, it is. It is August Caspian. That's his name, Gus. So what voice did I give him? He was like a little kid. Why don't we just retreat and come back later? Gus finished washing the technician's wound and reaching for the analgesics gel. Velvet prodded at the capacitor with a multimeter and checked the readout. It was dead, though she could have guessed that considering the scorch marks around the small component.
This part really frustrated me and Sarah. She's trying to figure out if this is correct or not, because capacitors aren't like a source of anything. They just redirect, I believe, voltage. I don't know. She's the one who just did circuits.
This is Velvet.
Oh, yeah. Retreating from Grimm isn't an option when you're fighting this close to a settlement.
Velvet said.
If we leave without destroying them, the Grimm will just look for another target.
My school, Gus realized.
And when a group shows up with wounded and mentions Grimm on nearby, that tends to get people panicked, which draws the Grimm to them more quickly. You know how it is.
All too well, Gus said. Velvet and her team, Team Coffee that is, had met Gus and his grandfather, Edward, on a mission for Shade Academy 3 months ago. That's when they had learned about the crown. Two of their cronies, Carmine and Bertalik, had tried kidnapping Gus for their boss because of his semblance, the power to enhance people's emotions. Only Gus thought of his ability more like a curse, since his own internal fear of his semblance caused him to augment negative emotions more than positive ones. He had been learning to control his ability at Obscuro, but he still didn't know if he wanted to be a huntsman, which is why he was hanging out with Velvet, tending to the technician's injuries while she tended to the broken CCT relay. She clipped out the bad capacitor and soldered in a replacement. Then she began vacuuming out all the sand that accumulated inside the console, since the number one cause of this machine's failure in vacuo was sand.
Because it's a desert, guys.
It had a tendency to work in a way. It had managed to work its way into almost anything, even though the most expensive scroll protective cases. But wait, like the new scrolls are just like little sticks. How do they even get in that? Fortunately, Velvet was handy with electronics, and Isadora was incredibly complicated, and she designed it herself. In retrospect, that probably should have left the technician at. They probably should have left the technician at Obscuro. She could have done this on her own. "I'm glad you're here," Gus told her. "I was actually going to call you myself, but then the relay went down." He started wrapping a bandage around the technician's calf.
You were? What's going on?
Velvet asked.
Is it Edward?
Her eyes fell on the disc blade hanging from Gus's belt, his grandfather's weapon from his huntsman days. The boy shook his head. No, he's fine. The meditation exercises Yatsuhashi taught me seemed to be helping his memory. Velvet nodded, and was going to proceed to recap the entire last book. She had a suspicion that it was more than just the meditation exercises that were helping Edward. No one knew for sure what Yatsuhashi had done with his semblance when he tried to heal Edward's mind. Oh, even Yatsuhashi wasn't sure. Then why did you try it? Holy shit, man. Editing people's memories is no fucking joke. His ability was to erase memories, but it was possible that there was more to Yatsu's semblance than that. It was something Glinda had emphasized in her second-year classes at Beacon. Semblances can grow as people do. It was reasonable to assume that he might have the ability to nudge Edward's mind enough to give him better recall and help preserve his his degenerative mental disease. But Yatsu had always focused more on controlling his power than testing his limits and seeing what else he could do. He hated messing with people's minds.
Hey Yatsu, you can cure Alzheimer's. That's okay. I don't like messing with people's minds. But this is like an incredible breakthrough in medical science. No. Don't worry about it. I shouldn't be messing with that.
I mean, you're joking, but I told you his backstory, right?
I know, but like...
He was a kid. That's traumatizing as hell.
I know, but if you're told that you can potentially cure cancer, like, come on.
Maybe. Alright, let's see. Where is it? I wanted to tell you that two of my classmates disappeared a few days ago, Gus said.
You think they were kidnapped?
Velvet said. They had strong semblances, and I don't think they would drop out. They were really committed to being huntsmen.
Were they reported missing?
Velvet asked. The teachers told the authorities, and the headmistress called Shade, but when we didn't hear anything, I figured I should call you. I knew you would want to know.
Do you have any idea where they disappeared from?
Velvet asked. Gus nodded. The last place they were seen was some new club called the Mirage. He held up his scroll, which displayed an ad promising one-on-one arena fights for a championship title, in the style of the Vital tournament. Oh no! We're not just hitting an initiation arc, we're hitting a tournament arc too, people! Oh god! A 3-pointed silver crown was titled on the C of championship. Velvet fixated on the image that Gus kept talking. Supposedly, they fought in a couple of matches. Gus shook his head. It wasn't until the next morning that anyone noticed they hadn't come back.
Where did that ad come from?
Velvet asked. Gus shrugged. It only went out to select students. The top of our class. But of course, it got around. Gus took a deep breath. A group of my classmates went, but I've been too afraid to leave campus since Carmine and Bertolek got away. Off screen.
I love being told about cool things happening. I know it's hard,
Velvet said.
but you gotta skewer to get stronger. Someday soon, people like them will be afraid of you. I didn't read that well.
It's fine. She gave him a light punch in the shoulder.
Besides, we've got this. We know who they're working for, and I think that club has something to do with it. Send that ad to me?
Sure. Gus looked at his phone. Still no signal, though.
1 second.
Yeah, actually, his semblance could be so useful in a fight, man. Like, the idea of, like, oh, hey, every single depressing thought you've ever had, you get that in triplicate now. In the middle of a fight. For your life. Yeah, dude, just give up. I'm just gonna stab you in the face and like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll just give up, die. And I guess I'll die. Velvet went back to the open panel and checked the connections against the readout of her scroll. Everything looked good. She plugged in the scroll and activated the startup sequence. Lights started blinking inside the panel and machinery hummed to life, but the screen of the scroll flashed between green and red. Velvet double-checked everything. She didn't know what was wrong. She glanced back at the technician, Gus still at his side. The guy was out cold. He'd taken a pretty hard knock to the head. Toppy, go away. You know what? I'm gonna...
The only rule of RWBY Fight Club? The fight choreography sucks.
Ah, crap, I didn't mean to minimize you. There we go. Wait, what? I didn't minimize you. What? Uh-oh. Why did you vanish? God damn it, stream. Work with me here. Right? No one can see her right now, right? That's not good. Was it because I put on Do Not Disturb mode? Is that why? No, it's not. Okay. All right. 1 minute. Okay. Window capture. Which window is that? Okay, that's that. Take our webcams. Webcams. Nope. Nope. Gotta figure out which one is which. Social media panel? No. Where did I put you? Did it delete your source? No, wait, shit. Undo that. Window capture. Is that it?
Don't worry, I have enough Pokemon fanfiction to get me through at least the next 10 minutes. Oh, it's so edgy.
Well, I'm more worried about our viewers. Let's see, Discord. Yeah, it's just not capturing you anymore. Okay.
That's so weird. I got my makeup all nice and done up.
That's bizarre. Alright, 1 minute, folks. Wait, I can't edit that while I'm there. Great. Okay. Yeah, entertain yourselves, people. We'll get this fixed post haste. So if I... Oh wait, she's back. I didn't do anything. Okay. Let's not minimize and continue on. Good with that? Everyone good? All right, let's do that.
Am I just not on screen now? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're on screen.
Oh, I'm on screen now.
Yeah, I fixed it. I just don't know what I did. This program can be pretty glitchy sometimes.
What do you think is more powerful? The Weiss plush in the uniform or the Marnie plush?
So I'd ask chat, but everyone's probably more familiar with RWBY here than they are with Pokemon. That's a good question.
You see, Tiny Weiss has shoes, which is...
She can kick better.
Yeah, she can. She can stand. I got her the shoes myself. I saw them at an arcade.
Just accessorizing your plushies. It's great.
You know what would be great? If I put these on Tiny Weiss. That's her name, by the way.
Tiny Weiss.
It's Tiny Weiss.
Yeah, Wenber's Weiss plush is very powerful. It is very powerful. Both of them are very powerful. All right, here we go. All right, let's get back
I
to
didn't
it.
play Sword and Shield either, but I can still appreciate the Marnie.
I didn't know you didn't play Sword and Shield. So we've both been gushing about headcanons about Sword and Shield, but neither of us have played it.
I didn't want to slog through it. I just went off of what everybody else said.
But I at least watched a Let's Play.
I mean, yeah, I did too. That's what I'm saying. Originally, the shoes were like keychains, like they were tiny Converse keychains. So I got two. Right. And like if I pulled up the back, you could still see like the little chain that originally attached to it.
Here we go. But the screen on the scroll flash.
Hey, no rude comments about Weiss plush.
Velvet double-checked everything. She didn't know what was wrong. She glanced back at the technician. Gus was still blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, she had tried. Velvet unplugged the scroll and closed the panel. She noticed now how now that it had taken a beating itself. The metal was shiny from being sunblasted regularly, but the center of the panel was dented in places. What could have done that? Had something tried to break into the relay? Velvet stood and stared at the panel for a long moment. Finally, she shrugged and kicked it with her boot. The screen on the technician's scroll turned green and began connecting to the CCT network. Finally, it broke through, but Velvet knew the signal was only strong enough to cover local communications in Vacuo. Ever since Beacon Tower had been damaged, the global CCT operation had been interrupted. Velvet's phone rang. A call from Octavia. Octavia was a wreck. Her hair was plastered to her face and neck, with sweat and her clothes. Her hair was plastered to her face and neck with sweat, and her clothes were caked in sand. This is where commas are important, people. Seriously, one comma after sweat, and I would have understood that entire sentence better. She had dirty smudges under her eyes.
Velvet, did the tech wake up?
Octavia said.
No, I fixed the issue myself.
Velvet said. She didn't want to brag, but she wanted someone to know what she had done.
Oh, really?
Octavia said, impressed.
We took care of the Grim and we're on our way back.
It's still you. This is all women talking.
How are the kids?
Velvet asked.
They're fine.
Octavia lowered her voice.
A little freaked, but they got a good lesson in how to take down Grim.
Arslan's face joined the call.
Oh, this is the one character whose voice I haven't really decided on yet. Yeah, because Octavia used them as bait for the Grim. What?
Velvet said.
That's right, and it worked. It's called strategy.
Octavia reported. Velvet could think of some other words for it. Abuse.
And they're all safe and sound.
Octavia went on.
Mostly.
Arslan said.
Octavia, you can't do that sort of thing.
Velvet said. Someone had to tell her. Octavia huffed.
We'll be fine. Just invite them to your baby brigade and you could cry all about it.
With that, she signed off. Velvet sighed.
In my notes, so I actually do have a chart of all my voices. And for Octavia, it just says Annie Leonhardt.
Arslan. It's Arslan.
I know. I'm just... Octavia, that kills people. Just ignore her. She'll come around.
Said Arslan, who was still on screen.
I should have been there.
Velvet said. If only they'd try and talk some sense into Octavia. They wouldn't have had to put innocent kids at risk if Velvet had been fighting alongside them. Of course, the problem was that Octavia wouldn't have listened to her. She didn't want Velvet on the battlefield with her. Velvet had largely held her own against Nebula in their fight, but that didn't matter. All everyone remembered was that she had lost. That Coco and the others had tried to protect her again. What person actually thinks like this? Like, I need to genuinely ask, if you put up a damn good fight and still lose, there's 1,000 different factors that could play into you losing, not by your own decision. And I get that, you were still weaker in the end. It doesn't matter. You put up a damn good fight, and if you're, like... I respect someone who puts up a good fight and loses more so than someone who wins over luck. Okay,
By the way, the voice notes for a Rumple say, "I am secretly bad, but not really."
All right, this is Arslan.
We could have used you out here, but you're the only one who could have gotten that relay back up. We all have to play to our strengths, and you happen to have one in technology.
Arslan turned away from the screen.
I must go. Truly, great work today. See you soon.
Oh, I like Arslan.
Arslan's nice.
Yeah, because she's Mistralian, that's why.
Huh.
Yeah. And in my fixing, she's the niece of Leo Lionheart. And it's actually...
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why they didn't... She's Mistralian. Her name is vaguely lion-themed. Like, come on. I've a plan for Arslan. I don't know where that's going to fit in, because I have, like, one character that's going to kind of throw Volume 6 for a loop. And Arslan might have to swap out for them. I don't know yet. Velvet smiled. She at least felt a little bit better.
See you, and thanks.
She was frustrated with Octavia, but she knew Octavia had another side. She'd seen it in reinitiation, and everyone was safe after the mission, which was no small thing. Maybe Velvet had been underestimating her team as much as she thought that they were underestimating her. Maybe with time, this could work out after all. If they had time.
Oh, that was a short chapter.
Yeah, how long was that? That was...
Insane Oddball says, I can count all the times Weiss won a battle on one hand. I can count all the times Blake has won a battle on 0 hands.
Yeah, that chapter was only, like... 6 pages?
I bet
pages?
the next one is going to be like 18.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh my gosh, it's long. 1, 2, 3...
112
4,
all the way down
5,
to 125, so that's 13 pages. It's almost double the length. And it's your turn to read. No. I mean, if you want, I can take over. Actually,
no, it's okay.
Is there a
it's okay.
Wait a minute? Is there a flashback? Is there a flashback in this chapter? No. Okay.
I don't.
There is a break though, so if you need to swap out, I can take over after the break. Hell, depending how fast we go, we could get through more than just these 2 chapters.
Yeah. Sun's mind wandered while Neptune talked to their 10th person of the day. After 4 hours of visiting people who had posted missing posters on the Weeping Wall, Sun was looking forward to a nice dinner at Bug Burger before continuing their nightly rounds. Neptune elbowed him, and Sun's attention snapped back to the middle-aged man who was speaking. It took Sun a moment to remember his name. Finn Asturias. Boy, I love more characters.
I'm trying to think. Middle-aged man. You boys are from Shade.
Finn asked.
Yeah. But we're... That's right.
Sun cut off Neptune. The only reason this man had let them into his home is because Sun was from Vacuo. Telling him they were recently from Haven, implying that Shade was their last choice for training, would end this conversation quickly.
Which might not be so bad, come to think of it.
Sun thought. Sometimes he wanted to shake these people and ask them why they weren't out there looking for their loved ones instead of just putting their pictures on the Weeping Hall. Hey, why aren't you out there in the fucking 120-degree desert, infested by monsters, looking for your loved ones?
You know, just randomly wandering around, going like, "Hey, Phil,
Johnny!
Phil, you okay out there?"
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got some pork chops. Let me know if you're hungry.
Vacuans generally weren't the type to wait around and hope for the best, except it seemed when their missing kids were concerned. What are they supposed to do? This is so mean.
Well, it's like, why aren't the authorities doing anything? It feels like no one's doing anything, and these kids should be picking up on that.
Hold on, I want to address something. CJ says that Yang and Blake have never lost a fight in the show since the fall. Yes, together they haven't lost a fight, but I'm talking about Blake's particular win-loss, because, like, in Volume 7, she got fucked up, and it was great. I don't count the fight against Adam where she one-shots him. That's not a fight.
Volume 6, she gets fucked up by Adam until Yang arrives.
Yes. Blake is not good.
Well, and that makes some kind of sense with the original design of her character. She's a stealth character. Like, her whole thing is, like, deception, and, like, she's the rogue. You never send a rogue into a 1v1 fight.
I guess she won against Ilya, but Ilya's also a stealth character, so it's basically just two, like, D tiers duking it out.
Rogue v rogue.
Rogue v rogue. You guys have been hiding behind pillars for the past 20 minutes.
Right, that was a luxury.
That was a luxury you would only find in the city of Vacuo, where people felt safe due to the presence of Huntsman and Shade Academy. Clans in the desert were used to fending for themselves more aggressively. Blake won against my will to live. God.
Did you know there used to be a magnificent place where Shade, palace where Shade is now?
Finn said. Sun shook his head, eyes wide with feigned interest.
My children used to be students at Shade like you. Thought took an arrow to
Finn frowned.
But Shade wasn't right for them. They disappeared shortly after they left the academy. They went to Shade?
Neptune leaned forward and lowered his voice.
I bet they have powerful semblances. Not Jax. He's never had much aura, but his sister. Gillian was the one who wanted to become a huntress. He just followed her. He went wherever she did.
That's pronounced Jillian, by the way.
Gillian, Jillian, whatever. Look, she starred on X-Files. That's all I need to know. So they're close.
Neptune said.
I'll say. They're twins. Are you getting all this? He asked Sun.
Neptune asked Sun.
Yeah, this is to you.
Oh. Sun pulled out a scroll and attached a note of the photo of the missing poster that I led in there. Finn Asturias. Boring, lonely. Missing twins. Jax plus question? Shade students left the school. Wow. Semblances? I want a double bug burger like right now. That's how my notes look for this book.
Wow, yeah. See, I don't know why they keep trying to paint Sun as as an asshole here. He's so relatable. I'm sorry, would you mind taking that thing outside?
Finn asked.
Huh?
This thing?
Well, she needs her daily walk.
She doesn't get a daily walk. She gets daily Iron Maiden.
Sun held up his scroll. This? I don't allow Atlegian tech in my house.
Sun looked around and realized that there was nothing electronic in the house at all. No TV, no phone, no dust-powered lighting. Just a whole lot of old, thick books. That was so weird he was surprised he missed it before now.
Sorry.
Sun started to slip his scroll back into its pouch. Then he realized that getting some fresh air sounded great right now. He stood up.
I will take this outside.
He held up his scroll and hurried out of the house, ignoring Neptune's look of dismay.
Sun closed the door.
Sun closed the door behind him and leaned against it. Glad to be out of there. It was dusk and the evening crowds were coming out, heading to the downtown club and restaurants. More than anything, he wanted to join them. His stomach grumbled and he pressed a hand against it. He hoped Neptune wouldn't take too much longer to wrap things up and follow him out. Sun forgot all about that for a moment when Velvet walked past, head down as she studied her scroll. He ran after her and tapped her shoulder.
Hey!
The next thing he knew, he was on his back, looking up at Velvet while she looked down on him. She covered her mouth with a hand. Sun? Wait, she covered her own mouth?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know how people do that when they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. I think she accidentally punched him. What just happened?
She helped him back to his feet. You don't sneak up and grab people. Where'd she come from?
Over there.
Sun pointed back towards Finn's house.
Neptune and I have been talking to people who post signs on the Weeping Wall. You were supposed to help.
Velvet pressed a hand to her forehead. I knew I was forgetting something.
It's okay. Neptune and I are good at this stuff. We've almost gotten everyone.
It's just that everything's been so confusing and busy lately with the new teams and one assignment after another and the curfew. Velvet stammered. He had to agree there.
Yeah, I noticed. Since the teams were reshuffled, no one has time for anything anymore.
Um, Not that it was stopping him. Sun scratched the back of his neck.
Speaking of curfew, aren't you kind of breaking it right now?
You aren't the only one allowed to break rules.
Sun grinned. Oh. The headmaster said no one can leave campus after sunset, so we leave during daylight and we just don't go back. Oh, that is awesome! I love rule lawyering like that.
I love it. He shoved his hands into his pockets.
So what's so important that you're sneaking out on your own?
Velvet's face lit up. You know that fight club we've been looking for in the pits? She flashed her scroll at him. I just got a name and address.
No way!
Sun read the advertisement on her phone.
Visit the Mirage tonight. It's so much fun, you won't believe your eyes.
Down at the bottom in small print were the words, "Come fight for your crown and kingdom."
Like, I want to say that's a good pun, but it's a terrible pun. It's not even, like, terrible in the good way of a pun. It's just, that's a really lame tagline. You gotta come on, Mirage! You gotta improve your marketing here. You're not impressing me.
Maybe it was a coincidence, maybe not, but he was on it.
Yeah, let's go!
Also, they're like coming after Velvet in the chat. To be fair, if you're walking alone in a town where they tell you it's dangerous every 3 seconds and you feel someone tap your shoulder, you'd also punch.
I mean, I just do that on the regular. It's, just fun.
Just in Cincinnati.
I mean, yeah, have you ever been to Cincinnati? It makes sense.
Yeah. I do that in Cincinnati. I do that in Manhattan.
Well, of course you do that in Manhattan. In Manhattan, you just do a full-on roundhouse kick. Like, you just skip past
and
the
you
punching.
say, "Hey, I'm walking here."
And if you're really good, you do it into traffic for them.
Yes. You also do it in Boston, but instead in Boston, you have to sing a Dropkick Murphy song and talk about how you're 1/8 Irish. You swear.
Do I still technically have to talk about being 1/8 Irish? I swear, even though I'm very patently Irish.
You're like full Scotch Irish. You don't have to talk about it. You have red curly hair.
All right, here we go.
In Boston, it's I my last name is McCarthy, which means that I'm better at fighting somehow.
I mean, I can attest to that. I'm pretty good at fighting. But the last time I fought was like 10 years ago. Probably. I used to be in martial arts, and yeah, I never got quite to the part where, like, I dropped out of that because I didn't go anymore, but I got bored with it, basically, because I wasn't advancing. They weren't teaching me anything new. All the techniques they were teaching me were just these kind of lame things, and it was all about memorization as opposed to, like, actually learning practical application. It was more about
Was
forms.
it Taekwondo?
It was Taekwondo.
Yeah, it was Taekwondo.
It was more about forms than anything else, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to learn how to defend myself in an intense situation. And the thing is, during sparring, there were very few people that could stand me. Like, I could give people... The only people that really liked fighting me were, like, the older people, who were, like, the teachers and such, who didn't get... I wasn't allowed to take off my armor, but they were allowed to not wear armor. They also had, like, those gloves that are kind of like...
Yeah.
They actually have dexterity in their fingers, and they aren't bulky pieces of crap tied to your arms.
I did boxing for a bit.
I hate boxing gloves. I hate them. Give me some of the, like, small compact gloves, and, like, I think MMA gloves, they're like that.
Yeah, the MMA gloves.
Give me some of those any day.
I learned how to fight kind of close to people because I'm tiny.
Oh, I know that. I see. I think I'm built like an Irish boxer. That's just my physical build. I am short and stout. People call me a dwarf. I don't like being called a dwarf, but people call me a dwarf, and it's fair. I don't like it, but it's fair.
How tall are you again?
I'm 5'6", 5'5", between those two. Depends on if I'm wearing shoes or not. So yeah,
Short and powerful is an underrated build.
it really is. It really is. I have problems in my head when I write characters. Like I want to write them tall and lean because I've just like been inculcated over my entire life. That's how a heroic character should be.
My my issue is when people are like, "Yeah, I love muscle girls," and all the muscle girls are like 6 foot and huge, and it's like, I'm 5'3" and 120 pounds.
I,
Working out doesn't increase your height
yeah, well, I mean,
or your
like,
shoulder broadness. But anyway, enough about that.
yeah, enough about that. So where were we? You aren't invited. That's Velvet. Yeah, it's you.
You aren't invited.
Does
Velvet said Velvet flatly.
Does anyone else know where you are?
Velvet bit her lip. No,
Is it going to be dangerous?
probably. Velvet admitted.
Then I am coming. Besides,
Sun said.
that guy there, that guy in there is so boring. Neptune has it under control.
If I refuse, you're just going to follow me, aren't you?
Yeah, it sounds like something that I would do.
Sun said. He thought she was about to give in, and sure enough, she said, "Okay then, if you promise not to interfere, you can come with me."
I know better than to make a promise I can't keep, but I can promise I'll have your back. We found us need to stick together.
Velvet laughed and held up her hand. "Fine, I'm actually glad I ran into you."
You have no idea where this address is, do you?
Sun raised an eyebrow. "I don't."
I got you. Son,
Sun pointed the way, and he and Velvet started walking side by side.
I gotta tell Neptune where I'm going.
He texted Neptune in size 14 Calibri. "Going with Velvet to a super secret fight club called the Mirage. Tell no one." As an afterthought, he sent one more message. "No, really, don't tell anyone where I'm going."
Maybe I shouldn't have told him.
Sun slipped his scroll back into its pouch. "It's a good step," Velvet said. "Showing your teammates that you trust them. Keeping them in the loop."
Yeah, but Neptune's not good with secrets.
Sun tilted his head back.
And I guess he's not my teammate anymore.
"Right." Velvet looked away.
You miss Team Coffee, huh?
Sun asked. "More than I can even say."
Then why didn't you tell them where you're going?
Sun asked. "They're busy with their new teams," she faltered. "And Team Rosk is still out on some mission in the desert." I forgot how you actually pronounce this.
It's like Rose or something like that.
Rosk.
It's Rosk.
Oh, it was Rosie, I think.
Yeah. All the same, like, I'm getting some shipping vibes from these two. It's nice. Like,
You know what? It's woke.
It is. It's an interesting ship.
It's woke.
What would? All right, 1 minute. Pause. I gotta know what the ship name for Sun and Velvet is.
Isn't there like a giant Google spreadsheet?
That's what I'm
somewhere?
getting. RWBY shipping chart. Come on, Google Drive. Okay. So we have Sun. And then we go over to Velvet. Shutterbun.
I don't like it.
1 minute. Yeah, okay, that's
Guys,
it.
come up with a better ship name for these two.
Well, there's more. Bananas and Chinese Zodiac. I think Bananas is the best of the three.
Guys, come up with something better.
I mean, like, the Velvet X Carton ship, that one, like, the one they go with, the main one is just called Bullying. And I'm like, really? Really? But then when I, like...
It's just called bullying.
Come on, reload. Why is this thing not... Because, like, there are, like... The one that I came up with, what I really liked, was Holy Bun. And just a cute little sound to it. Oh my god, this chart is just freezing on me constantly. At some point...
Hi, CJ. We're shipping Sun and Velvet.
Yeah, bananas. Oh, come on. Okay, you know what? It's freezing on me. There were other names for it, but I'm not going to look at that chart if it's going to keep freezing. We'll do an entire stream on the chart at some point. It sounds like fun.
Can we just rank every RWBY ship from worst to best?
That will take forever because that chart has literally everyone.
Can we just say which ones are good?
Possibly, but that'd be a very short list.
Yeah.
And I'd be so tempted to use oh, but the fixing RWBY versions of these. Where, I have the characters actually, reflect on things and interact. Where, say, for example, a Pura and Nora ship are actually feasible because they actually have more than 2 lines of dialogue together. Alright, here we go. Where were we? Missing Team Coffee, then...
Let Sun consider that for a moment.
That still leaves Fox and Yatsuhashi, and I know the big guy would drop everything to be there for you.
Velvet sighed. He would.
I get it. You're talking to the right guy. I can give you some pointers on how to set some boundaries with your teammates.
Is that what you call it? Setting boundaries? Velvet stopped and put a hand on her hip. And what makes you think that's what I want?
Because you're going off on a mission without them. And that's not something you would do when everything's fine.
Sun's eyes widened. He slapped a palm against his forehead.
Oh, is that why the guys are so annoyed with me?
There are probably a lot of reasons. It looked like she was trying to stop it, but she couldn't help it. Velvet smiled.
Thanks.
They kept walking, and Sun gave Velvet a sidelong glance.
How come your team works so well together? I see groups like Coffee and RWBY and wonder why Sin is different. I mean, I know it isn't all my fault. Something's missing.
Excuse me. Velvet pursed her lips as if to prevent a secret from coming out. We weren't always a good team, she told Sun. We made mistakes, some pretty bad ones, to be honest. But they brought us closer together. I think the main thing is that we're stuck together and work through things together. Now, when it's important, we know when we can depend on one another.
Sun stopped suddenly and looked...
Hold on, can we... CJ goes, can we call the ship Upgrade because Velvet is better than the current Blake? I love CJ's comments.
Someone go add that to the shipping chart. Sun stopped suddenly and looked around.
Sorry, I lost my place for a hot second. Don't tell me you're lost.
No, I know exactly where I am.
He stared across the street. So it was still there after all, and the lights were on inside. Velvet followed his gaze. Sanzong Dojo, she read. Is that your cousin's dojo?
Yep.
Do you want to stop in? I'll go with you if you want.
Nah, now's not a good time.
How do you know?
Because we have more important things to deal with right now.
Family is pretty important. Sun swept his hand towards the dojo, as if pushing it away.
This isn't the right time.
He repeated, hurrying off before he could change his mind. Velvet caught up to him. When will it be the right time? She just wouldn't let it go. Sun sighed.
I'm not the most dependable person. I like to go where I'm needed, but I always like to be needed. Somewhere else. For someone else.
He shook his head.
I guess the right time is when I know I'm not going to leave again. And with all of this, who knows?
Anime's heart says Sun prefers average-sized carrots to a wet, stinky tuna.
There's so much wrong about that sentence. Thank you for burning into my brain.
Congrats, Anime's art, for worst comment of the stream.
Please continue.
Where are we? Oh, okay. He waved his hands.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, when you're ready, I'll be there for you. Velvet winked. After all, we fauners have to stick together. He rolled his eyes.
I hate it when people use my own words against me.
Why?
Because most of the time, they make me sound dumber than I am.
Velvet raised her eyebrows and took the lead.
Velvet? Velvet!
Sun hurried after her.
So you want me to take over
Why,
from here?
why
Or
is there a
what?
paragraph break here? It's like cut to very next moment.
Do you want me to take over here? Or do you want to continue reading?
I could continue.
Okay. This is Mirage? I should have known.
Sun said. This was where he and the others had tracked the rogue huntsman, Green and Brown, last week, where Fox had sent Professor Rumpel the night before she announced the reinitiation at Shade. But we still don't have the passphrase, Velvet said. There's got to be another way inside. The Mirage was unassuming, like most buildings of Vacuo, except for Shade Academy, which was kind of the point. The school was trying to make a statement. Yes, I know this. The school was trying to make a statement and give the people something to look for, blah, blah, blah. Simple buildings were more practical, cost effective. Yes, I get it. Bricks and portable homes were predominant architectural features, along with industrial decay, the old refineries and factories, and warehouses abandoned by dust companies from other kingdoms. The Mirage was a sturdy warehouse built of steel, the kind of place you'd seek shelter in if you didn't want to be buried by a sandstorm. Its walls were shiny, almost like glass, built to reflect the sun's heat and keep the inside cool. That's not really how that works.
Yeah, all you're gonna do is melt the cars in front of it.
I mean, metal conducts heat.
Well, yeah, but like
Did,
there's
did they
also
forget?
like there's those
Yes, the
buildings made of
reflection.
the buildings made of glass in like London or whatever. Like they were sued because the angle of the glass reflected light onto the cars and magnified
Yeah,
it into like a heat ray.
yeah, I remember that. Anyway, poor architectural decisions aside, its walls were shiny, almost like glass, built to reflect the sun's heat and keep the inside cool, which is not how that works. From a distance, you could hardly see the planes. I just love, like, the complete failure of basic physics here. Velvet and Sun approached the solid metal door at the entrance. Sun shrugged and rapped on it with one of his gun chucks. That's safe. A narrow panel slid open at the top, and eyes peered out of them.
What do we fought for?
I was going to do that, and I realized it was probably best for you. Velvet glanced at Sun. She started to lift her scroll scroll to the window. I have this ad. That was it. Sun blurted out.
For Crowning Kingdom.
The panel slid shut. Sun gripped his gunchucks more tightly. Then the door creaked open. A large man in a black chest plate stared down at them. A silver armband glinted on his arm. Sun stepped back, planting one foot behind him and preparing to fight.
Check your weapons, scrolls, and dust.
The man said.
I thought this was a fight club.
Sun said.
We fought without weapons.
The man said. The two students exchanged a look. The man held his hands out. Sun reluctantly gave him RWBY Bang and Jingu Bang, or he tried to, but as the man tried to take the gunchucks, Sun kept hanging on. They played out a brief tug of war before the man picked them up, along with Sun, who was dangled comically before letting go and pouting. Someone in the chat says, is there a ship name for Sun and Yang? And the St. Alpha goes, Bimbo and Himbo Solidarity. I love the chat so much. Chat.
Chat is awesome. You're breathtaking.
You're breathtaking. Sun glanced at Velvet as she started to walk past the guard. The man held out a beefy arm.
What's your weapon, girlie?
Velvet smiled sweetly. I don't have one.
What's in the box?
The guard reached down and grabbed the box fastened to Velvet's back. Hey, she protested. The guard opened the box and looked inside. His eyebrows bunched together.
What's this?
A camera, Velvet said. At his blank expression, she explained. It takes pictures.
Like scrolls?
Yep. He handed it back to her.
No pictures in the club. But doesn't it use...
Sun began. Velvet jabbed him in the side with her elbow.
Ow!
Velvet said, Thanks, sir. I won't record anything. Then she reclaimed her camera and grabbed Sun by the shirt collar, dragging him inside the club.
Sorry.
Sun said.
Didn't expect you to lie like that.
No one does, Velvet said. That's why it worked. Let's hope I don't need to use an Isidora in here. They went down a dark, narrow hallway towards the sound of pounding techno music, cheers, and grunts. The temperature was much cooler in here than outside, but it also smelled like sweat and food and old machine oil. That's what the dorms at my school smell like too.
Yeah.
Yeah, computer science students, man. Then they reached a vast room packed with standing tables, booths along the walls, and people everywhere, all surrounding a large gold cage in the center. Two people were fighting inside, but Sun could barely see them through the throng. What's in the box? I got 7 flashbacks.
Blake's evil
Inside the cage, a tall, gold-skinned woman with bandages wrapped around her muscular body was facing off against a younger girl with mirrored glasses and dreads. Sun recognized her from Shade.
Isn't that Umber?
Sun asked Velvet. Yeah. She's on Fox's new team, Team Fondue. I wonder why she's here.
Looks like she's here to fight.
Sun said.
Should we hide or talk to her?
Blade Shark says, I remember that smell, you're not alone. Blade Sharks, were you in a computer science or engineering school? Sorry, just saw the comment. World Star!
World Star?
Umber looked spent, but she still fought. Though her opponent had the advantage of size and strength, Sun also thought her skin might actually be gold, considering how little damage Umber's strikes were having against her.
The newcomer is almost finished.
An announcer called.
She's going to need some of Tayate Al-Dahab's bandages soon.
Tayet
Al-Dahab.
That's like
Al-Had. Al-Had. Al-Had.
I don't even know if that's a real last name.
Aldi. She's now a freaking Aldi. She's a convenience store on the corner.
Isn't Aldi's in the UK?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Let's look around, but try not to draw too much attention. I wonder why she's here. In a club known for fighting. In a cage with another fighter. Yes, I wonder why she's here.
I mean, like, there's the thing, they're obviously not, like, putting together that Rumpel's in on this shit.
Yeah.
As they probably should at this rate. Is Raymond trying to summon a demon? Yes. Where do you think Molly came from? Alright, so, yeah, plus Sun liked being bossed around by strong women.
Anyway.
There you go, guys. It's official. Sun's a cuck.
He's not a cock. He's just a bottom.
Really?
But maybe also a
really?
cuck. I don't know.
The way he behaved with Blake?
That's fair. That's fair.
That boy is into Nito Rare, and no one can argue otherwise.
Oh, God. Anyway, Blade Charts, no, I am not from IT hell. Please do not put me in front of any sort of wires. I am a civil engineering student.
That's where I knew
I just
Aldi
know
from.
A lot of computer science majors.
Germany. Oh, man, I miss Germany a little bit. I miss Japan more, and I was there shorter. Okay, where were we? Yeah, let's look around, not try to draw much attention.
Sun and Velvet circled the arena, studying the crowd. He kept an eye on the cage, watching Umber fight. That gold woman, Tayet, was charging at her. Umber's shoulders slumped. She looked straight at her opponent and lowered her glasses. The move reminded Sun of Coco when she was trying to look nonchalant. But suddenly Tayet frozen in the cage. The crowd went wild.
A surprising move from Umber! She has revealed her semblance at last, some sort of paralyzing stare. Okay, there's a lot of things that can be going on here. I get, like, I really hate where people immediately put together what's going on. Like, the idea of, like, oh, well, like, the idea of them being in a panic over what's this, what's that, what's going on. Like, how do you know that's her semblance? That could be, like, some kind of laser vision. If robots in this, I don't know. Sorry, nitpick. Please continue.
Someone says that Al-Tahab sounds Middle Eastern. Yeah, it does sound Middle Eastern. I just don't know if it's a real name.
Probably is.
The way we stammered over that name was something else.
Sun's jaw.
Sun's jaw dropped as Umber now rushed towards Tayet, eyes locked on her. Then she dropped and slid between Tayet's legs, grabbing them with her hands while kicking up and back. Okay, so like that. Okay. Tayet toppled forward like a fallen toy. She shook off the paralysis and climbed to her feet, blinking and looking confused. By the time she turned around, Umber was ready for her. She punched her in the gut, and Tayet recovered and reached for her. Umber lowered her glasses again. Tayet froze. This is like the most broken thing ever. It doesn't even have a recharge time.
Well, we don't know if there are limitations of some sort. Maybe she just can't turn it off like Cyclops and has to wear the sunglasses.
Maybe. Looks like Umber might just pull this off after all. Oh, that's you.
Looks like Umber might just pull this off after... This is the boring freaking announcer, man. Like, I'm giving them all the energy that they... Like, I'm working with what I have here, and that's still not very good.
Interesting decor, Velvet said to Sun. Apparently, she wasn't watching those amazing battles featuring one of her schoolmates. Instead, she was staring at the walls. Sun followed her gaze and saw that weapons were mounted along the perimeter of the club, swords and scythes, shields and guns. Then Velvet gasped and grabbed Sun's arm.
What?
She pulled him toward her and turned them around so their backs were to the wall. Let's take a picture together. What's happening, boys? She held up her scroll and took a moment to frame the shot. Sun smiled. The camera bulb flashed as she took the picture. The crowd around them stilled, and someone grabbed her scroll, the guard from the door.
No photos, I said.
He glanced at the image on the camera and then at Velvet. She acted shocked. I'm so sorry. I was so excited. I forgot. It won't happen again, she promised.
She really loves taking pictures.
Sun leaning close to the guard to explain.
It's a sickness.
The guard frowned, but he deleted the picture and handed her camera back.
Do that again and you're banned.
Thank you. Velvet put her scroll away, and the man moved back to his station.
What was that all about?
Velvet tapped at her camera screen. Good thing a backup of every photo I take is automatically uploaded. She showed the picture to Sun. He and Velvet were out of focus, and the image was badly framed, showing more of the wall behind them than their faces.
I thought you were a good photographer,
Sun said. Velvet blushed. I am, because I got exactly what I wanted. She pointed to something in the background, a golden sai mounted on the wall among other weapons.
So?
I know this one. It belongs to Carmine Esclados. Sun was stunned.
That rotten huntress we fought back to Coquina?
He took another look.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't remember it being gold.
Excuse me. That makes it even more weird, Velvet said. Why is it here? And how did it get this way?
Maybe it's a replica?
Sun said. Velvet scoffed. Why would someone make a gold copy of her weapon? The material's too soft to fight with. And if the place is run by the Crown, I doubt it's a coincidence. I'm going to send this to Coco, Yatsu, and Fox. As Velvet texted her former teammate, Sun watched Umber fight. She was winning.
Umber has an awesome... Oh, sorry. Wrong person. Umber has an awesome semblance.
He said. She was kicking butt. Velvet frowned and packed her camera away for now. That's not a good thing if you know who is running the place. Let's try to get a little closer. They pushed their way towards the cage to catch the end of the fight. Umber was beating Tayet, their aura meters about evenly matched. Umber's glasses were pushed up on her head, and she was now fighting her opponent with her eyes closed, opening them only to temporarily freeze her opponent, then move her into position to kick or punch her, and then it was over.
Nice work, sweetheart,
the announcer said.
The winner gets a kiss from me. I might have forgotten to mention that before. Come on.
Umber glared up at him, and of course the man froze. Then people started laughing and clapping until a bunch of guys with silver armbands and guns started to move towards the cage.
Guess some are allowed weapons. I guess some weapons are allowed.
Sun noted. He looked around and saw that about half the people in the crowd wore silver armbands like those he'd seen on bouncers and guards. How had he missed them before? On stage, Umber lowered her glasses and crossed her arms.
Up!
The man finished. The audience roared with laughter again.
What?
Anger flashed across his face. But then he joined in, his laughter a bit forced.
Good one. Do we have a new challenger?
The cage door opened and Tayet limped out, favoring her right leg, while Umber looked around. There weren't many takers now that her semblance had been revealed.
Who will step up for a chance to be crowned champion? Crowned?
Sun said. Then, before he knew what was happening, Velvet raised her hand. I'll go. Sun grabbed her hand and yanked it down.
Velvet, no!
What did I say about grabbing people? Velvet pulled her hand away and stalked towards the cage. I don't know this woman's voice. Velvet? Umber called in surprise. That's not her voice. Did you follow me here?
Another girl fight!
The announcer rubbed his hands together, and the crowd responded heartily.
Excellent! Enter the cage, doll! No, pick me instead.
Sun said. He summoned a clone to stand in front of Velvet, blocking her way as it waved one hand in the air wildly.
Impressive! But you'll have to wait your turn, Sparky. I want to see what she's got.
Velvet stuck her tongue out at Sun and pushed past his clone. With no other choice, Sun let his avatar fade. The young man stepped out of the shadows and whispered something to the announcer on his platform. That guy looked familiar, but Sun couldn't place him.
Wait!
The announcer called down to Velvet.
Changing plans. Sparky takes the cage first. Sorry, doll.
Velvet looked surprised and then annoyed as Sun walked past her to enter the cage. She tugged his arm. No, Sun, she said in a low voice, like she was disciplining a naughty pet. We have to go, right now. Sun grinned, but his smile disappeared at the dark, fearful expression on her face.
I wanted to fight Umber so I could warn her.
That's me.
Oh, it's her?
I wanted to fight Umber so I could warn her. You show a powerful semblance here, and maybe you don't get to leave, Velvet said.
And what did I just do?
Exactly. Sun looked up at the announcer.
You know what? I'm good. We gotta get going, actually. It's a school night, you know? You can't back out now. Get in the cage, both of you.
It was clearly an order, and a bunch of the club's goons started to close in on Sun and Velvet. Sun reached for his staff, but came up empty.
Nuts,
he said.
Okay, let's see how long Chapter 10 is. It's probably going to be a long one. I think combat's about to start. So it's 126 down to...
Oh, it's short.
134. It's 8 pages.
Yeah,
I can handle that.
How do you feel?
I can handle that. We can do this. Chapter 10. Who's ready for an extra chapter this week?
Do we have like 5-minute break so I can get something to eat?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right.
I will we'll be right back. We're going to take a brief break here, people. We'll be right back, but we're doing Chapter 10 today.
All right, cool.
And we're back.
We're back on.
We're back on, yep.
Cool.
I'm trying to see if the music is showing up. Okay, good. It's just very quiet. All right. So let's see. Let's look at some of the chat and we're back a little bit.
First, this is a call out to my girlfriend for eating all of the Annie's cheese crackers that I was planning to eat during that break.
Okay. All right, so we have 8 pages to go through for chapter 10. Let's do this. Staying up late to scour the city for information on the crown was one thing, but staying up late to keep watch over a barren stretch of desert was another. Searching for the person or persons kidnapping innocent people for some unknown but dark purpose was always way more useful than fighting Grimm far from the city. But that's what Professor Rumpel had assigned Team Rosk to do for the last week. This was an area called the Wasteland for a reason. It was wasting Coco's time, her talent, and her patience. She hadn't changed her clothes or taken a shower since leaving Shade, but the worst thing was the boredom. Back in her combat school days, she hadn't thought she'd ever grow tired of fighting Grimm, but here she was. It was routine, and not in the way that it had been back at Beacon after the school had fallen. That had been for a noble cause, but this was just felt like busy work. The thing she missed most was her team, though, her friends, and surprisingly, Coco missed being in charge. By the campfire, Scarlet rolled over and mumbled something too low for Coco to hear. She shivered and pulled the blanket closer around her shoulders. She watched Reese Cloris and Olive Gashley sleep. Still a great name, Olive Gashley.
Olive Gashley.
Yeah, remember we poked fun at it earlier. Reese just wasn't a good leader. She liked to lead the group by vote, which wasn't leading at all. It was passing the responsibility off to your team. Coco listened to Velvet, Yatsuhashi, and Fox all the time, except when she didn't. Knowing when to trust her instincts and when to listen to their suggestions was one of the hardest things she had to learn. Sometimes she still got it wrong, but whether she was making the tough calls or not, she trusted them to do what she demanded of them, to do better than she expected, and to trust her. That dynamic didn't exist on Team Rosk, and she wasn't sure if it ever would.
Been together for like 2 days. Calm down.
Yeah, these people are like, guys, I mean, like, I get the whole shuffling is kind of a dick move, and it's very obviously kind of shady, but, like, come on, guys, calm down. It's not the end of the world.
I don't have a voice for Olive, so this will be fun.
Yeah. After a week of forced togetherness, things should have been clicking, but the four of them still weren't getting along. It was a miracle they had survived so far, and it was only by virtue of the fact that each was individually a strong fighter. At first, when she was a new student questioning Professor Ozpin, Coco had thought that the system at Beacon was broken, but she was certain it was broken at Shade. Why had Rumpel messed with something that would already work so well?
And it's all my fault,
Coco thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had failed Team Coffee and was still failing them. Maybe she should have protested when Professor Rumpel announced their reinitiation. Maybe she should have continued to defend Velvet. Now her real teammates were divided, their investigation had stalled, and they were all back to square one. Velvet was with a team that didn't recognize her awesome capabilities. Fox was withdrawing, having lost his family for a second time. Yatsuhashi was going mad with worry about Velvet and his teammates, knowing that he couldn't be there to protect them, and worrying he would accidentally hurt someone on his new team. And Coco had to take orders from Reese Cloris, who dressed like she was a 12-year-old hanging out at the mall and acted like it too. Coco's scroll buzzed. One of their permanent...
Damn, just going for my girl Reese here.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be fair, Reese does dress that way, but she pulls it off, man.
Some people can pull it off. If you have the proportions of a 12-year-old like me, you can pull off
that. There's a reason why 12-year-olds want to emulate. There are people that pull it off, and 12-year-olds are like, hey, that's sick. Let's do that. And then they
By the way,
fail.
I just want the chat to know that that sometimes I buy clothes that are like boys large because they fit me and they're cheaper. So, respect to Reese.
Respect. Coco's scroll buzzed. One of their perimeter alarms was going off. It could just be another lizard, but it might be something else. Then several more alarms went off at once. It was definitely something else. Coco glanced back at the dying campfire. It was just about time to wake up Scarlet for his watch, but if something was finally happening, she'd be damned well wasn't going to miss it. She just checked it out. Go check it out, and if it was a rare case of something she couldn't handle alone, she would call the rest of them. Just tell someone! Just fucking tell someone! Like, I'm gonna go check on this thing. I'll be right back. I think I can handle this myself, but if I need help, I'll call
We'll
for
be
you.
right back.
Yeah. After these messages. She would call the rest of them. They probably appreciate the extra sleep. Coco picked up her sunglasses from the rock beside her and slipped them on. Then she pushed the small button on the right temple to activate the night vision filters. Oh, she has 6 shades. Awesome. She smiled as the desert lit up in reddish hues for her. She loved these glasses, a surprise birthday present from Velvet last month. Knowing Coco was afraid of the dark and closed spaces, Velvet had been working on them for more than a year, but parts of her free time were hard to come by in Vacuo. Coco headed towards the perimeter alarm. What?
I said all?
Oh. Yeah, see, the thing is, there's some good character in these books, but just like...
I just remembered a comic I haven't thought about in like 4 years or something. But, it was a comic that was like, Velvet gives Coco a new pair of glasses, and it's just like, aren't you a gem, Velvet? And she puts them on, and they're like novelty shades that look like the eyes are always open. I love them.
Coco headed towards the perimeter alarms, keeping an eye and ears peeled for Grimm. And then she found them. 6 jackalopes, big guys, surrounding someone. Who is this?
Okay. We don't have a voice for...
This is Carmine. This is the bad guy.
What is Carmine? What is she, like? What's she like?
Think like slutty Yang and an asshole.
Oh, come on. I don't have time for this. He's going to kill me if I'm not back to Mirage in 30. Like
Coco,
that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Coco, maybe more. Try add a little more Valley in there. A little more Valley girl. She's a little...
Oh, come on. I don't have time for this. He's going to kill me if I'm not back to the Mirage in 30.
It's better. I think that fits better. Coco pressed a button on her left hand, on the left band of her glasses and zoomed in. Seriously, she loved Bunny Vision.
Bunny Vision!
She gives it a little name. It's so cute. In the magnified view, Coco glimpsed the person who had captured the Grimm's interest. This person had flowing red hair capped with a pair of goggles, a short cape, and even shorter skirt showing off long legs.
Carmine,
Coco said under her breath. Coco couldn't help but feel some sense of cosmic justice. Not too long ago, Carmine had kidnapped Gus Caspian and held off the combined might of Team Coffee in the desert. Uh-oh. Oh, my tassels is... Oh no, I'm gonna snap this.
No, Trody. She does not have the personality of a hot lesbian. She has the personality of a lesbian who's ugly in the soul.
There we go. Sorry. My tassels. These little tassels they're hard to see on the screen. They're annoying. I love them, but they're annoying. Not long ago, Kamai might seem obvious. Coco debated whether she should walk away, but this was the first she'd seen of Carmine since she and Bertolak had escaped from police custody. It wasn't likely the Grimm would be able to defeat her. Coco suspected they were more of a nuisance than a real threat for a seasoned fighter. But if Carmine was weakened in the battle, Coco might be able to get an advantage over her. Call your team! This lady could literally hold off your entire previous team. Probably helps if you have your guys on hand.
Oh my gosh, she's the knockoff Yang?
Yeah, she's the knockoff Yang. That's why I said slutty Yang.
Oh my gosh.
She's the one with the terrible character design. Whatever.
Oh my gosh, that is a horrible design.
She watched while Carmine tangled with the antlered Grimm, admiring her strength and skill. The huntress vaulted over the jackalope's head to land on its back, then grabbed the horns and twisted them, jerking the monster's head sharply until its neck was broken. As it faded away, she leapt onto another jackalope. She stabbed down into its back with one of her sai, and then threw the weapon into another creature's eye. The weapon electrified, destroying the Grimm. The sai then flew back towards Carmine as the Grimm reared back, sending the huntress tumbling. She landed hard and then dropped the weapon into the sand. Uh-oh, Coco thought. Carmine stumbled to her feet. She looked for her sai, but it was lost in the sand. She lowered her goggles and raised her hands. The sand around her started drifting upwards. Carmine had a weak telekinetic ability that allowed her to manipulate small objects, like swords and grains of sand. It didn't compare to the ability to lift large chunks of buildings like Glinda Goodwitch could, but being able to manipulate lots of small objects at once still made Carmine quite powerful. The effort must have distracted her, though, because Carmine didn't notice the jackalope's powerful back legs kicking out until they knocked into her. Carmine went down. Coco switched her glasses back to normal magnification. Even as she was thinking about the course of action, she was rushing towards the fray. Sometimes decisions were like that. Your body already knew what to do while your brain was still processing the situation. Only in this case, Coco's body wasn't necessarily the clearest judge of character. Her brain would have said that Carmine didn't deserve her help. Coco ran up to one of the large Grimm and swung her purse in an upward arc, smacking the creature from behind and sending it flying, over the heads of its dark brothers. Carmine stirred and climbed to her feet, holding her sai, which she just conveniently found. She didn't miss a beat.
Oh, fancy meeting you here.
Carmine
Wow,
said,
I'm looking at this character design. It's just terrible.
It is terrible.
Awful.
Carmine,
Why is there chainmail?
I don't know.
People in chat saying that this character is hot. Please get higher standards. Also, stop calling everything a lesbian.
Well, to be fair,
and stop insulting lesbians by accident.
Yeah, if she's looking at this, if they're looking at this character naked, then maybe she's hot. But she's not naked in those images, guys.
What's going on with her face? Like, it's just worse Yang.
It's been a while since I've looked at it, so I don't remember exactly the issues.
She just has, like, really skimpy, terrible clothing on, and I know chat's loving that.
Carmine said to Coco. She turned to the remaining two jackalopes.
Oh, you boys are in trouble now.
Coco stood back to back with Carmine and flicked her bag, turning it into a machine gun.
You talked to Grimm too?
Coco fired her gun and the jackalope in front of her was shredded to smoke by her dust bullets, the force augmented by her semblance.
A girl has to amuse herself,
said Carmine, tossing her sai into the air. It spun in place for a moment, zipping toward and through a jackalope, then whipped back around and did it again, and again, and again, and again, as though it were a needle threading fabric, until the Grimm collapsed on itself. The sai flew past Coco's face, passing less than an inch in front of her cheek and into Carmine's waiting hand.
Where's your other sword?
Coco asked.
Lost it in a fight,
Carmine said.
Wish I'd seen that,
Coco said.
I didn't lose the fight, though,
Carmine said.
Sorry to hear that.
Okay, I really hate this inconsistency. Like, Coco asked, Carmine said. Coco said, Carmine said.
Carmine said.
Like, you could just... we know who's talking. There's no one else interrupting the scene. And if we're not
Professional writing.
You can cut down on word count so easily, unless maybe you're trying to hit a word count. The first jackalope Coco had hit came bounding back. Carmine used her semblance to open a sandpit in front of it, while Coco mowed down another jackalope down with her gun. Maybe they were both showing off a little, or maybe they were trying to intimidate each other.
What about your partner, Bertolak?
Coco asked.
Lose him in a fight, too? Former partner,
Carmine said.
No, he just needs to
You
recharge
skipped
a
Coco's
little.
line.
Oh, he's dead?
Coco asked.
No, he just needs to recharge a little.
Carmine laughed.
Why? You interested in the job? No thanks. I've seen how you work with others.
The jackalope in the pit roared as it struggled in the sand and slowly sank into the ground. When it
Thank
opened
you,
its
anime
mouth,
art.
Stop
it. She's not a hot lesbian. You're right.
When it opened its mouth, sand flew inside. The Grimm began to expand until it exploded, sending out more sand and tacky black grim matter that coated Coco, though Carmine easily diverted it away from herself. Coco wiped a hand across her cheek and examined the tar-like substance before it dispersed into smoke. Carmine?
I don't know. We make a pretty good team.
Carmine said.
But we're far better enemies.
Sorry. Coco sighed and collapsed her gun into its compact form. She turned to face Carmine.
I've been dreaming of a rematch with you.
I mean, to be fair, people are calling her a lesbian for very good reasons. This dialogue is fucking charged, Coco said.
She might be lesbian, but she's not hot.
Agreed.
Y'all need better standards. Anyway.
Yeah.
You're dreaming about me? I'm flattered.
Carmine winked.
But as I was telling our dearly departed friends, I don't have time for this. Hot date with the crown?
Coco asked.
Carmine briefly looked surprised, but she covered for it by twirling her sigh at one figure. Don't be jealous, darling. I'm still trying to work into this voice, so forgive me.
That wasn't exactly a no. Either Carmine didn't realize she confirmed that her employer and the crown were one and the same, or she didn't care. The sigh flew towards Coco's face. Coco smacked it out of the way with her bag and bolted for Carmine. She put all of her strength into a blow across Carmine's face, but it barely seemed to faze her. A blast of sand slammed into Coco from her left, and she went down. Carmine should have been at least a little bit worn down from fighting Grim. Coco struggled to her feet, and more sand piled on top of her, pushing her down onto her back like an overturned tortoise. The Huntress had been challenging before, but she seemed nearly unstoppable now. Coco's brother Van used to like burying her in sand on long ago beach trips when she was trying to sunbathe. After a year in Vacchio, Coco couldn't believe that she'd ever associated sun and sand with fun. The sand kept on coming.
Pocket sand.
It really is.
Where are Yatsuashi and Fox? Why aren't they rushing to your aid? Coco, oh, that's you.
Coco spat sand and ignored the question.
Ryan Carson, please interact with real humans, real women. Begging. Please. Anyway, where did you say you were going?
Nice try. Oh, this is still Carmine.
Nice try.
Carmine said. Sand continued to pour over Coco. She would never plan a beach vacation again if she survived this. The Mirage, she had said. Why did that sound so familiar? Like she'd heard it before, or read it somewhere. Coco nudged up her scarf to cover her nose and mouth. She squeezed her eyes shut as she was plunged into darkness, and the sand clogged her ears. She held her breath. On those beach trips, she had been able to hold it for 3 minutes, 42 seconds. But this time, she hadn't been able to take a deep breath first, and her heart was already pounding. Her lungs burned. If she opened her mouth, it would all be over.
All right, you brought the B team out here.
Carmine's voice was muffled by the sand covering Coco's head. How did Carmine know about the reassigned teams and their missions? Did she have a mole at Shade Academy?
Coco!
Reese called.
I'm right here!
Coco thought. One of her worst nightmares was being buried alive. But she never thought it would happen in a wide-open desert like this.
I should have woken the team up earlier,
she thought. No shit, Sherlock! Suddenly, the sand stopped moving. Carmine was probably occupied now fighting the rest of Team Rosk, but Coco was still under what felt like 300 pounds of sand, and she was almost out of air. Despite times calling for desperate measures, Coco had one terrible idea, but if it worked, it was going to hurt. A lot. Coco focused on her semblance. Coco focused her semblance on one of the gravity dust bullets on her weapon.
What's her semblance again? I forgot.
Enhanced ammunition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bandolier purse strap. God, I really hate putting this slash in descriptive text. That's stupid. Hyping up the explosive mineral until it, well, exploded. The shock wave of gravity-manipulated ordnance blasted the sand off Coco, but it also exploded the rest of her bullets. The impact knocked her aura down to a dangerously low level. She wheezed as the air in her lungs was pushed out, and then she was gasping to replace it. Her ears rang and her eyes were bleary, but she was happy to see that she had stunned Carmine, who had been standing right on top of her. She'd only surprised her. Carmine still seemed fresh as she had at the beginning of the fight. How is she even doing that? Reese hurled... There is someone vacuuming downstairs. Can you hear that?
I cannot hear that.
Okay. Reese hurled her hoverboard at Carmine while Olive tossed a pike at her, accidentally knocking Reese's weapon out of the way.
Idiots.
Coco thought. They really needed to coordinate their attacks better. Carmine noticed right away.
They aren't exactly Team Coffee, are they? I'm just going to try to charge all of her lines as much as possible.
Yeah, super sexual, hypersexualize her. That's what everyone seems to be going for. This is when Scarlet swung his sword at Carmine and hit her from behind. He got sand in his eyes for the trouble. Pocket sand!
Good thing the cavalry is here,
Carmine said. Coco looked up to see Deathstalker scurrying towards them.
Uh-oh.
Reese said, whipping around. Coco turned. Another Deathstalker was coming at them from another direction.
Nice seeing you again, Coco.
Carmine...
I finally thought of, I need to have, a reference voice in my mind sometimes, and I finally thought of one for Carmine.
Who?
Right as she's off screen.
What's the reference?
In Bravely Default, there was this one character who was, one of the asterisk bosses was, high on some aphrodisiac, or not an aphrodisiac, hallucinogen.
Interesting.
She's high on a hallucinogen, so she talked entirely like this. The voice actor did a really good job. That's what I'm working on.
God, I'm wearing down on this. Good thing we're almost done with this. All right. Carmine twirled her fingers in a goodbye.
Nice seeing you again, Coco. Thanks for saving me.
Her laughter grew distorted and distant as sand swirled around her like a personal storm that slowly drifted away from the Shade students and the grim that they're fighting. Typo.
Where is it?
There instead of there. Shade students and the grim that they're fighting.
Publish books, everybody.
I mean, I should not talk shit about this because I published my books independently and I have so many grammatical...
Yeah, but you published them independently. This went through Scholastic.
And Coco's fear and anger had summoned.
Thanks,
Coco said to her team as they formed up.
We're in real trouble.
No kidding, Scarlet said. Deathstalkers are no fun.
Oh no, we can handle those. Reese and I will take the one on the left. You two take the one on the right. Hey,
Reese said. Coco cut her off.
No offense, but listen to me,
she said.
You're the one who got ambushed in the middle of the night.
Reese grumbled.
It wasn't a fair fight.
Coco spat.
But we can't waste any more time out here. We're needed back home. I think Shade has been compromised and our friends and the school are in danger.
Reese glared at Coco and the Deathstalker as the Deathstalker moved in.
I need you guys,
Coco said.
I'm out of bullets and I can't take another hit. But you also need me, because let's face it, I'm the best strategist around for miles.
You aren't wrong, Scarlet said. We'll back you up. Right, guys? Olive nodded and drew her all pike silently.
Fine, but if you get us killed, I'm requesting a new team,
Reese announced.
Deal. I haven't lost a team yet,
Coco said.
I hope that doesn't change tonight.
She was suddenly struck by a thought. What was it Carmine had said?
Where are Yatsuhashi and Fox?
Coco felt the blood drain from her face. Why hadn't Carmine mentioned Velvet? Maybe because she already knew where Velvet was. Because Velvet was in some kind of trouble. In spite of everything that they'd just gone down in the desert, Coco was consumed by one thought now.
I've got to find Velvet before Carmine does. Oh man, I messed up that final sentence.
All right, I'm a little bit of a leap of logic, but that is interesting that she's putting the pieces together pretty well. All right, and that is it for the stream, guys. Oh my god, I'm tired after all that. Any interesting thoughts we're having yet? I don't think there's anything too bad in this three chapters. Wow, this way of reading it just points out how repetitive this writing style is. When Raymond has almost as many words just saying X said, then something is wrong. Yeah, no, seriously, the thing is, I got bashed on being very descriptive with how my characters worded things, or like my characters word things in their dialogue, and then I have a descriptor afterwards of what they're doing in tandem with it. And it's a thing that I've had to kind of weed out of myself because it does get kind of repetitive. But I was always very sure to avoid saying X said, Y said, X said, Y said.
My rule is that in like any given exchange, I'll break up exchanges like character A speaks, character B speaks to whatever extent, and then there's a longer paragraph, and then short again. And between the two longer, just like chunks of text, there can only be like one said.
Yeah, I try to avoid said at all costs. I always try to use something more descriptive because, like, when you get down to it, it's not that, it's not just that you're saying things, it's that are you expounding things? Are you exclaiming things? Are you shouting things? Are you whispering things? Like, there's different descriptors. You avoid said at all costs, people. At all costs. It is a very, like, you can use it once in a while. It's fine once in a while if you're feeling a little lazy, but if you've used it recently, avoid it at all costs. It's not a very good descriptive piece of language. And with that, what you go?
I'll use it if like I just need to fill out the.
If you just need to designate who's talking, fair.
Yeah.
But like, you should be able to tell who's talking from the way they're saying things. You should have a distinct enough voice with that, and I think E.C. Meyer gets close to that, being able to distinguish people based on their speech. Sometimes, very often, it does.
I haven't noticed much of a difference, honestly.
Well, like, for example, Coco has very short sentences. She doesn't really talk at length. She's very snappy to the point. Sun has
how does that differentiate her from like Yatsuhashi or or from Scarlet?
Yatsuhashi is very.
I know he's quiet and direct.
Yeah, he's quiet and direct. Coco's a little more wry in her delivery. And then, like, that kind of skews into Fox, who is much more talkative, but silent through his telekinesis, that kind of stuff. Like, there's way to vary it up. All the same, you should be able to imply who's talking simply just by who you already had in pattern. And if there's more than one person, that's when you throw in the descriptors, and you usually make sure it's varied in the descriptors. You don't just keep saying said and said and said and said. It's maddening.
Definitely try to limit it to once or twice per page at most.
Yeah, at most, at an absolute most. All right. Well, I'm exhausted. I need to get a drink because I don't have anything. I need food. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all had a good time. This is always fun to go through. Hopefully, maybe next time we can keep up the 3-chapter process, but we'll see. Any closing thoughts, Molly?
This book is hurting me on some sort of astral level.
Good to know. All right, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you all on the flip side.